Hello everyone, Jason Hagholm here, and we're going to do a new little bit here on my YouTube channel called Canadian Corner, as this is a perfect week to do it with no UFC, no Bellator, no PFL. So let's take a look at the Canadians that are going to be in combat this weekend in the realm of mixed martial arts. And with no UFC on, no Bellator, no PFL, there is a Canadian MMA card as Unified MMA presents their second show for the month of May. It's Unified MMA 45 going down this Friday night from the River Creek Casino and Resorts just outside of Edmonton, Alberta. And while the Battle of Alberta in the Stanley Cup playoffs is heating up, this is a fantastic card for the Canadian mixed martial arts scene. In the main event, you have Ryan the Real Deal Ford taking on Robert Hale for the Unified MMA catchweight 175-pound championship. Ryan Ford made his return to MMA back in March, where he kind of surprised everyone with how he got the victory. A second-round triangle choke victory over Dewan Pickney, another veteran of mixed martial arts. And like we said, Ford hadn't fought in quite some time in the realm of mixed martial arts since 2014, transferred over to boxing. This is one of the most well-known and respected fighters to ever come across the Canadian MMA scene. Ford's got tons of hands, can definitely showcase a good ground game as he did against Dewan Pickney with the triangle choke victory back in March. And as well, he's got 9 other submission victories to his credit. But this is a guy that's known to be a striker, wants to keep the fight on the feet, and he's got himself a perfect opponent here in the Blue King, the American Robert Hale, who's coming down from Atlanta, Georgia to Edmonton to take on Ford. Hale, of course, is on a solid 3-fight win streak, fighting for NFC in Atlanta and the B2 promotion out in the southern part of the United States. His last loss was back in March of 2020 before the pandemic against high up-and-coming lightweight prospect Kenny Cross at Lights Out Championship 7. This is a guy here in Robert Hale that, as we said, he's got 11 wins, and 3 of them come by way of KO. And the rest of them, he's proven to be durable. He can take the fight the distance and win a decision there. But that's going to be tough to do against Ryan Ford, who is known to be a finisher. But it's going to be an exciting main event. As well, the co-main event, you have Christian Larson defending the Unified MMA Heavyweight Championship against Grayson Wells in a rematch. That took place back in last September. Grayson Wells coming in on short notice as Christian Larson was supposed to take on former UFC heavyweight Rashad Coulter. Coulter had an issue getting people to be in his corner, so he's out. Grayson Wells comes in on short notice and looks to kind of reverse what happened back in September, where he ended up losing by first-round arm triangle choke to Christian Larson. Larson is one of the top Canadian heavyweights in the realm of the Canadian heavyweight landscape. It's had difficulty getting fights, obviously, because of how small the pool is at heavyweight. But his last couple of fights were, as we said, the win against Grayson Wells, and he did rock Caio Machado, who is the BFL heavyweight champion and will be fighting this season on Dana White's Contender Series. And look, Christian Larson, obviously he wanted that fight with Rashad Coulter, doesn't get it. Still happy to fight, get to showcase his skills, and looks to see, what adjustments he can make here against Grayson Wells. And same thing goes for Wells, who comes in here, getting a second chance opportunity to pick up that heavyweight, Unified MMA Heavyweight Championship, where he's fought some vets as well. Canadian Dustin Joinson, who's now obviously in one championship. Lee Mean, of another veteran of the Canadian MMA scene, and he's looking to, come through here in a second chance opportunity. And look, these are heavyweights. Anything can happen, and with the history with these guys, don't expect this one to go that much of the allotted time here in the 5-minute rounds. As well, I think when you look at this card, you have Neil Anderson taking on Majid Hamill in another rematch on this card, but one that's very interesting. It's a rematch for the Unified MMA Featherweight Championship, where Majid Hamill ended up winning the championship back in August of last year in a fight where Hamill was thoroughly getting picked apart on the ground. Anderson had better positions on the ground looking for submissions, but Hamill was able to be durable, find himself out of those spots, and able to eventually get a 4th-round rear naked choke on Neil Anderson. It was one of the craziest comebacks we saw on the Canadian MMA landscape last year. And now for Hamill, he's got to prove it wasn't a fluke. Neil Anderson looked really good in that first fight against Hamill, and looked fantastic back in March at Unified 45 against, Lucas Neufeld, who was looking to catapult himself to probably maybe getting a shot at the Contender Series. But, the veteran here, Neil Anderson, he snuffed out Neufeld that fight, and he looks to continue to ride that momentum here in the rematch against Hamill. And if what we know about Hamill, this is a guy that can take a beating but find his way to get finishes or push his opponents into bad spots. Just look what Hamill did towards the end of last year as well, when he took on Alex Morgan, where he took a lot of punishment from Morgan before succumbing to a 4th-round finish to Alex Morgan. And Morgan's a guy at 145 pounds that is looking to push himself to the next step in his career for one of the major promotions out there. But Hamill is a durable, fun fighter, and I think this is going to be a fight you definitely want to circle to take a look at going on forward on this card. And hey, once again, it's another rematch, and you want to see how the adjustments are made, because as I said, Anderson had the better positions for 3 solid rounds before Hamill was able to escape a lot of those positions and get himself a rear naked choke finish back in August, and now he looks to prove it wasn't a fluke here in the month of May. And then looking down the rest of the card, a couple of interesting fights for some prospects. Izudin Atma takes on Harley King to kick off the card here at Unified 45. Look, Izudin Atma, a well-respected fighter, making his debut for the Unified promotion, did a lot of his fighting for BTC fight, where he racked up a record of 2-2 in the promotion, where he's really evolving his game. He's really came in as a striker, upping his ground game. Now, he did lose his last fight back at BTC 14 to Vinny Diaz, which was a part of the BTC $10,000 bantamweight tournament, but this is a guy that I think he loves the stand-up game, as in showing just overall improvements all around, and someone to really keep your eye on at 135 pounds is what Izudin Atma can do. And his opponent, Harley King, looked fantastic when he made his BTC debut back in November, where he was really cruising, looking solid up against a well-respected veteran in Ariel Zuniga. Unfortunately, he got caught in the 3rd round, where Zuniga went for broke, caught him in a triangle, in an Ezekiel choke, a Darce choke, and ended up, unfortunately, getting submitted there. But Harley King, he can really push the pace, land some good, clean body shots as well. I think this is going to be an exciting fight. Expect this one to stay on the feet. It's MMA, obviously. Maybe King wants to try to take the fight to the ground after Atma got controlled for 15 minutes against Vinny Diaz last time out back at BTC 14. But expect Harley King and Izudin Atma to really set the tone and be an exciting fight here on this card. Jet Grand, once again, returns to the Unified cage. That's a definite prospect you need to see and keep your eyes on, for a guy that's had tons of experience from the amateur side in the IMF days, and he's already 2-0 inside the Unified circle, making his debut back in last September, and then fought in the last show they had in 2021, where he had himself a first-round TKO over Stephen Thompson, fighting Colton Boxall, who's known for his ground game. But I think Jet definitely is someone you want to keep your eyes on. And, of course, one of the top prospects in all of the country, in Mariusz Shavushkevich, is making his return to the Unified cage, taking on undefeated Israeli prospects Eli Aronov here at Unified 45. And Shavushkevich here is just coming off a win a month ago back at LFA 130, a first-round knee-to-the-body TKO finish over Alessandro Gambolino. And look, he looked great in his Unified return back in December against Grant Park at Unified, where he fought for the 195-pound championship. And here he's fighting at 185 pounds as Mariusz Shavushkevich, the pride of Winnipeg MMA right now. And he's looking to take his step to the next career to the next level right now with a win here. That would be a 3-fight win streak. either he gets put back on the Contender Series or signed straight outright for one of these, UFC, Bellator, PFLs, because the Iron Pole is definitely someone you need to look out for just how well and overall his game is. And look, a record of 10-1, that is nothing to sneeze at as a mixed martial artist. So that is the Unified card, the lone Canadian MMA card this weekend. But there are more Canadians in action as well on Friday night, as if you go to the south of the border here in Mexico, UWC 34 goes down from Tijuana, Mexico, and Canadian Tyler VanKill will be making his promotional debut for the Mexican promotion as he takes on Hiram Furukawa. And Tyler VanKill, a very talented grappler, one of the best fighters to fight on the ground, making his splash and debuts last year for BTC at a first-round arm triangle choke, and then fought for Unified back in August of 2021, where he had Andrew Mavridis tap out in the first round by an arm triangle choke. He's very crafty with his submissions, and Furukawa's going to definitely have to find a way to stuff some takedowns, or when the fight gets to the ground, have a good ways to scramble and get the fight back up to the feet. We haven't seen what VanKill can do on the stand-up, and I expect that he is prepared for that, but this is VanKill's world, is getting the fight to the ground and finding a way to finish it there with a submission, and he's got very crafty ones. So Tyler VanKill, better known as Squid Vicious, will be competing and making his debut here for UWC down in Mexico. And as well, the other Canadian taking place in combat this weekend is one of the top bantamweight prospects coming out of this country. It's Teshay Gouthro. He makes his CFFC debut this Friday as well against Efren Escarano at CFFC 108. Teshay Gouthro, 4-1 as a professional. His lone loss was at the LFA 93 show back in October of 2020 against Justin Wetzel. That was a unanimous decision loss. That win has held up a lot better, considering Wetzel in his last time out beat UFC alum here, Askar, back in June of last year. So that win's really held up for Teshay. Teshay's coming off a dominant performance back at BTC 13 Power in November of 2021, a third-round TKO over Christian Bouchard, and Teshay is just really putting it together. He can put it together with getting the fight to the ground, looking for submissions, but he kind of was a little bit wild when he made his professional debut and first couple fights, wanting to, have the highlight barn burner style fights, but he's a technical striker, looks for the right openings, and he hits like a ton of bricks for a 135-pounder. This is someone I think that is getting the right shine on him. Happy to see Teshay get some opportunities south of the border for some good promotions in the United States like CFFC. And he's taking on a gamer here in Efren Escarano, who himself someone that isn't a making his debut or anything like that for this promotion. This is the fourth time out for Escarano for CFFC. He's 2-1 in the promotion, and this is a guy that can really fight to the best of them. Really put Jeffrey Glossner into some bad spots in his last fight out back in January at CFFC 105. A veteran of the East Coast MMA scene with Ring of Combat and, of course, with CFFC. I expect this to be a good test for Teshay Gouthro against the likes of the Dante Rivera BJJ product here in Efren Escarano. And I think these guys, they just got some good styles that can really make this an exciting style matchup as one of the early bouts here on the Fight Pass stream for CFFC 109. And that's where we were at for this little look here at the Canadians in combat this week. We got Unified MMA 45 going down from just outside of Edmonton, Alberta on Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. As well, Tyler VanKill makes his promotional debut for UWC at UWC 34 in Tijuana, Mexico. And Teshay Gouthro makes his CFFC debut at CFFC 109 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, taking on Efren Escarano. So, folks, we'll be back next week to look at the Canadians in action. And, of course, there is another Canadian MMA card going down next weekend as BTC Fight Promotions returns home to Burlington, Ontario. We'll look at that next week. But for now, let's enjoy this and enjoy the fights from all the Canadians in action.